So I noticed that many people on the internet kind of rave and chant and complain or whatever about the 36 millimeter Datejust. A lot of people don't want it. They want the 41 millimeter Datejust or the 40.5 millimeter Datejust. Most people don't understand that it's not actually 41 millimeters. It's just 40 and a half, and everybody just wants to upshoot it to 41. It's 40 and a half, okay? Guys, get your story straight. But let me tell you about the 36 millimeter Datejust. It's a deal. You can get a real deal buying a pre-owned 36 millimeter Datejust. I'm wearing a 36 millimeter Datejust right now. I'm rocking it. I think it looks great. And one thing you have to remember, guys, is that nobody anywhere in any occasion really, unless it is for wristwatches, nobody is going to look at your wrist and start judging what watch you're wearing. You know, this is why brands like Invicta are such a big deal, is because they look just like a Rolex, and somebody that knows nothing about wristwatches, they're going to look at that and go, yeah, they don't care. They're not sitting there looking at it, judging it. I've worn this out several times, and not one person has ever pulled me aside and said, hey, you know, that's a pretty small wristwatch you're wearing there. No, wrong. If you're just getting into expensive wristwatches and you want to save a lot of cash, check out a 36 millimeter. Sure, right next to somebody rocking a 40 millimeter, it's going to look small, but a 36 millimeter Datejust, I think, is pretty smooth. If there's some kind of deal for you on getting 36 over getting that 41, you got to remember that that might be worth it. It might be worth it. The 36 could keep climbing. The Rolex market could keep climbing. You could get it, you know, deposit that cash in there and then get it back. Now, a lot of you guys might be thinking, Chris, you're crazy. Well, let me show you something. Here is the 40 millimeter Submariner date and the 36 millimeter Datejust I'm rocking. And yeah, the 40 millimeter Submariner date does make that Datejust look a lot smaller, doesn't it? Until you realize that the dials are the exact same size. The dials on both of these watches are exactly the same size. The Submariner just has the bezel and the bezel insert. If you're sitting there watching this video and you're telling yourself that you need a 40 millimeter Datejust because you can't see the dial or whatever, well, guess what? Then don't buy a Submariner. You can't. It's over. Because the Submariner date, etc., they have the same dial as the 36 millimeter Datejust. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people look at those watches side by side and they go, wow, look how small that Datejust looks. Not really. The first Rolex I ever had was the Datejust that I showcased on this watch channel years and years and years and years ago. That was the first one I ever had. Nobody ever told me that it looked too small. A lot of people pick that thing up, and most people, when they're picking up a mechanical watch, especially when it says Rolex on the dial, when they pick up that watch, they talk about how heavy it is for the size of that watch. You know, like, wow, this is so heavy. I didn't think it'd be this heavy. Because most people are used to quartz watches, and quartz watches just have the battery. Nobody ever said, man, I couldn't rock this thing. It's just too small. No one ever says that. Now, if you're sitting there watching this and you think, you know what, I just prefer a larger watch. I don't care if the dial's the same size, etc., etc. I understand that. But I'm making this video to shout out to the people who won't look at buying a 36 millimeter watch for their first watch. Now, this watch, I think it looks decent on me. I think it looks good. The white dial, I think it pops. I do wear it very loose. It's definitely a piece of jewelry. I wear it like a piece of jewelry. And again, no one's ever called me out and said that the dial was too small, that the watch was too small. Most people see the watch, and if anything, if they are a watch person, they at least want to check the watch out. You know, if I'm sitting somewhere and I see a guy sitting next to me and he's wearing a Rolex, or if he's wearing a Patek Philippe, or if he's wearing an Omega or something, I'm never gonna look at it and go, you should have got it bigger, you should have got it smaller, you should have got it something. You know, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And I'm telling you, the amount of money you guys can save. If you wanna rock a Rolex and you're just getting that cash to maybe throw some money at a pre-owned Rolex and you really want to get into that market, I think 36 millimeter for men might be the way to go. And who's to say 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, etc., you either A, sell it and get all your money back, or B, the 36 millimeter thing skyrockets and that's what becomes popular. You never know. Nobody knows what the future holds for wristwatches. I mean, again, you are looking at a Submariner date, you're looking at a Datejust, and those dials are the exact same size. The Submariner date just has a larger bezel. And of course, the bracelet's different, etc. But I mean, the dial is exactly the same. So again, nobody out there wearing a Submariner date can say that they prefer it over the Datejust 36 because they can't see the dial on a Datejust 36. If you say that, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Now, I'm not sitting here telling anybody that if you want a large watch, you're incorrect, but this video is for the people who are kind of just getting into the hobby. And if you're looking at getting something like a 40 millimeter Omega versus a 36 millimeter Rolex, get the Rolex. The Rolex is going to run better, the Rolex is going to be worth more money, and the Rolex is going to keep escalating in price. And years down the line, you can either have it serviced, get the bracelet worked on, or maybe do nothing. Maybe you don't wear it all the time, and you can turn around and get all of your money back. So that's pretty much the video. I had to show you guys the dials are exactly the same size on the 36 millimeter Datejust and the 40 millimeter Submariner date. Dials are the same size. So you can't sit there and say, oh, I prefer the Submariner because I can't read the dial on the Datejust. Just remember that little quick video I had to pop out for you guys. I do want to throw in there that I am having another brain surgery. So this is probably going to be the last video for a long time. It's a long story. It's very complicated, just like the YouTube channel, but I'm not going to be around for a while. I wish you guys the best. I hope that you guys enjoy the videos. You know, if you're just checking out the channel now, I've been making these watch videos for years. So go ahead and check out some past ones, man. I have made some wild videos, and at first I didn't dress nice and I swore a lot. So I don't know if that matters to anybody, but if it does matter, you're going to enjoy checking out the older videos. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Maybe I'll see you next time on another episode of It's Complicated.